This is Discover Crypto. Every day on the channel, we teach you how to make money with digital assets. And folks, smash that like button because we got a major show today. We got to talk about this recent crypto dump. What is going on with these altcoins? Also, what is going on with Ethereum? We have some very, very important news regarding Say. And not only that, I have the catalyst for the next leg up for this bull run. And I will give you the timeline on when exactly and why exactly I think this market is going to start to recover and how I'm going to be positioning my portfolio. I'm going to be making some major moves. So I'm going to be revealing that as well. And also, we got to talk about these liquidations and these expiries that are happening soon. It is the end of the week, the end of the month, and the end of the quarter. This only happens 4 times a year. So we're about to have a lot of volatility for the next 32, 36 hours, everybody. But go ahead and smash that like, Disco fam. How are you all doing today? We're going to go ahead and look at Bitcoin. All right. So sing along. Well, you need to read along and listen along because we are going to be dropping the alpha despite what you might think here. Now, on the 5-minute chart, see, Bitcoin is just going very volatile lately here over the last hour, just whipsaw action, trying to liquidate everybody. Now, when we go to the 4-hour, I haven't changed these lines from yesterday's stream. So I wanted to wait until we are live here so we can maybe mess around with that. Now, the RSI is, I mean, this wasn't the cleanest trend line, so we're not even going to give this one too much credence. But if we put it right here and then come down, I mean, we have dipped below on the RSI right here. So we definitely need the RSI to turn around. If we go to the 1 hour to see if this is happening, it is starting to turn around. So we might see the 4-hour bounce right along here. And if we extend this line, ain't no way. I was about to say, ain't no way. Pretty close. Came down pretty close there. Go to the 1 hour, you can see we got a little bit of support. Just wicking a little bit lower than where we wicked right here, just to, again, liquidate these trades, folks. You got to be using low leverage if you're going to be using these trades. We will talk about Aster. Speaking of Aster, we have an Aster link down below and L-Bank, Blowfin, all of our partners here, folks. So looking at Bitcoin, though, 10-minute chart, think we might have a little bit of fear. You can see the bulls trying to prevent it from coming down to this trend line. Right now, the Bears and the Bulls, they're in the middle of a fight. This fight is getting very bloody. We don't know how this is going to end up, folks. Now, I do want to check out CoinGecko. Let's look at the rest of the altcoins here. Let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now down 1.4 and ETH is down 3.8%. XRP actually holding fairly strong. This is, next to Bitcoin, the strongest mover in the top 10. It has declined. If you don't count Tron here down 0.8%, Cardano down 3% here, and we have Chainlink also down 3%. Now, Avalanche, though, a lot of people talking about this giant Avalanche dump. Avalanche is now down 11%. We are going to open a trade. We have a trade in on AVAX. We'll show that in a second. Looking at what's gaining, we got Monero. What do I always say? When you see Monero as basically the only altcoin in the green, that is definitely not a good thing there. Link is getting depressing. Hope to see a liftoff soon. If Bitcoin dominance goes up to 61%, we're going to be adding to our Link position. We're going to be selling some Bitcoin for Chainlink. And if Bitcoin dominance goes up to 62%, we'll then double that trade there. So we are going to be upping our Chainlink exposure. I do agree. ETH come down mostly to the trend line from the peaks. All right, so you got a good trend line, Dylan. We'd like to see that there. And everyone's saying, picked up AVAX, not scared. I'm longing AVAX, folks. I also am not scared. Sometimes you got to be a little bit risky. You get a little risky appetite there. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, let me zoom in here a little. I got to zoom out so you can see the entries. All right, so this is Hemi. Last night's video, we talked about Hemi. I am getting bullish on Hemi, so we got a long on Hemi and just a quick long on AVAX. I'm still waiting for some other potential orders to fill. I think I came in right below 30 as well. So I don't know if these other trades are going to fill. It might be a smaller trade, but we are in the trade there. Now, looking at Plasma, Plasma is down. XPL, a lot of people talking about this one. Story. Woo! Story down 30%. So hopefully you weren't chasing any pumps there, folks. And speaking of chasing a pump, pump.fun, for the 3rd day in a row, dump.dump, it is now down 10%. And Flare down 7.6, and Hype down, and Aster cooling down. Ooh, that reminds me, folks. That does remind me. Remember, we threw down some lines on Aster. I said, this is going to be, there is going to be a little entry point. God, which one was it on? I want to say Binance? Are we going to see our lines? We'll have to look. We'll have to look here. Aster. Maybe it's on Aster USD. I'll find this in a second here. Aster. So they don't have the spot crypto up yet. So I've been using different exchanges. When there's too many, sometimes you lose it. Maybe it was MEXC. It might have been MEXC here. Yes, it was. It was MEXC. So we said, there is going to be. Oh, look at that! I told you, folks, to wait till 2. I said this is going to be the first entry. Look to where they hit the wicks here, and then you're probably going to get an entry below $2, folks. There's your entry below $2. You can go ahead, get some exposure. Looks like this thing wicked down all the way down to 187. I would say that was a good opportunity. I actually added to my Aster position last night. So we top blasted at the time. We shot our videos like around the 60-80 cents range. It was during this little run up. Felt like a top blasted anyways. Saw a little bit of a pullback, top blasted last night. Sometimes, folks, you just got to top blast these tokens, folks. So let me know if you are in Aster. I'm curious to see where you guys are positioning here. All right, now we're going to read a couple chats, and then I got to break down how scary the U.S. financial system is, how scary this debt situation is. And sometimes there's so many zeros on this U.S. debt. It's hard to rationalize. It's hard to visualize a trillion grains of sand. It's hard to visualize past a couple dozen grains of sand. So when we start talking about our debt being in the trillions, it's hard to grasp. But if you remove a few commas and you remove some zeros, then you get a little analogy going with, say maybe a household income starts to get a little bit easier to understand. And when you get a better understanding, you actually get more fear, and you're more fearful of the dollar, and you're more bullish on Bitcoin here. This is Trader. All right. Morpho. What's a good exchange? Let's see. On the phone. Ooh, that is a good question. I don't know if Drew's in the chat. Yeah, someone answer. What is a good Morpho phone exchange? I do know, Solana, a great experience on mobile. Some of the other ones, not so much. Is Cardano dead? I need the honest truth, no bias. I guess you know what I could do? I guess I could show you my post here. So we're going to go to X. I'll show you my feed. All right. This is what I posted this morning, actually. Let's see. You know what happens to ADA when everyone is bearish, right? Every single time. So this is just the 4-hour candle. We're getting a little bit oversold on some of these altcoins. And I just pointed out every time the RSI has been bearish just over the last few months. We're only going back to June here, right? So June, July, August, September. All right. So we almost a half year. Oversold, it's a great time to get into ADA. Oversold, great time to get into ADA. This was hell for a little bit, especially if you jumped in towards these green candles, actually dipped a little bit lower, depending on where you jumped in. But then it was a great time to hold ADA. And right now we're looking pretty bullish. You can see some bull divs forming on the 4 hours, some hidden divergences here. So is ADA dead? I would say no. Is it been a lackluster past few months? Yes. But there were periods a few months ago, it was the best performing asset over the last 12 months. There was periods where it would perform better than Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. I don't know if that would hold true still, but yeah, I'm sorry, ADA is not dead, folks. But good question. I do appreciate the Cardano questions. And again, if you do hold your Cardano self-custody, stake with DZ pool, everybody. We do have a Cardano pool. But now back to the U.S. fiscal situation. And when you remove some zeros and some commas, it starts to look a little bit scary, folks. So this is the national debt crisis simplified. It looks at our tax revenue. This is how much we get from our citizens annually. It looks at our federal budget. This is how much we spend annually. It looks at how much new debt we created, and then it looks at our total debt. So if you remove 8 zeros and pretend it's a household budget, then it starts to look a little bit scary. And this is our current financial situation. So when you ask why people are bullish on Bitcoin, it's because they're bearish on the U.S. economy long term. So removing all these zeros, this is what it looks like. Annual family income, $46,000. This is probably applies to a lot of people. Definitely applying to some of the people viewing at home. So imagine, the income for the home, $46,000. But the money that the family spent was $66,000. So that meant you got new debt on your credit card and you racked up $20,000 in credit card debt. Meanwhile, you have an outstanding balance on a different credit card, $375,000. And so this is our financial situation. We're making less than 50K. We're spending more than 65K. We're racking up 20K in debt on our credit card. And meanwhile, our total debt is 375K. This is literally the US's situation to a T. This is the same numbers, just removing those zeros. So when you say it this way, it looks a lot scarier, folks. It looks a lot more bearish, and this isn't really bode well for the long-term prospects of the nation. So you wonder why people don't have babies. You wonder why people, not even if they can afford a home, they don't even want to buy a home because the interest rates are so high. This sums it up perfectly, folks. Now, no one wants to admit that before Orange Man said it was going to pump Bitcoin, and so far it's not pumped. Could have already topped. Yeah, it was priced in during the Biden lame duck presidency. So they call the lame duck presidency when you're, from the election to when you step out of office in January. There's about there's a couple months there. They call it the lame duck. All those pumps ran up during, in a weird way, Biden's presidency. So the pump was kind of front ran, and then it kind of got a little too hot too fast, folks. 46K. No way, if that's your income, I think it's best to stay out of crypto market for real, for real. Honestly, if you do only make 46K, maybe crypto's your only way out of the rat race. So I don't want to diminish. There's Solana trenchers that could turn 0.1 Solana into 10 Solana. Might take them a lot of stress. It might take them a lot of Discord hunting. Might take them, might take away some of their sanity. But there is ways to, change your life, even if you do have small income there. Let's see here. You doing promo? No promo on Aster. We do have a link just because we want to make sure people don't click the wrong link. Don't use Aster. Use Hype. I don't care if you use Aster or not, but people are going to use Aster, so we want to point them in the right direction. I actually, if I was to tell you to do something, use EdgeX because it is an exchange that doesn't have a token yet. We did do EdgeX. I don't have any referral there, but just make sure you click the right links there, folks. Yeah, why are you fading Aster anyways? Fading Aster's, I feel like you didn't buy it when I was saying, when we were screaming to buy it at 60 cents. We made the tutorial at 80 cents. We posted it. It did pump a little bit in the meantime there, but we were telling you about Aster literally a week ago. We were talking about it Thursday of last week. I'm sorry if you didn't jump in, but I jumped in late. I knew about it a little earlier, and I jumped in a little bit late. The nation's running their credit like poor people do. Yeah, we definitely have a ghetto mentality when it comes to our fiscal situation. We're borrowing. What do they call borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, as they say. Do you think there's any way the bull? So I have the prediction for the bull market. I'm gonna share it closer to the end of the show. I think I have the catalyst for the next bull period, for the next semi-bull run here. Maybe it's going to last a couple weeks. That's typically how long it lasts. I do have the catalyst that I'm going to share with you folks, and we'll talk about the date and how long it takes there. Do you think we bounce back violently or the slow crawl? I think it might be a slow crawl until the announcement, maybe the 48 hours preceding it, kind of like we saw. And I don't want to give too much away. Aster, big scam. Look at the wallets. They hold 90% of the supply. I would agree that is something to be scared of if it wasn't CZ affiliated people. I don't know what CZ's bag is. I imagine he has something. I know YZI Labs has investment in there. So some of the wallet is definitely CZ connected. CZ diamond handed 70% of BNB from 10 cents to $1,000. I'm not worried about CZ's wallet. Now, maybe some other team members. Yeah, they're definitely gonna sell for sure. I'm now edging. Okay, you goon. Get away from the e-girls. Avantis, a lot of people are bullish on this one. We might have to do a video on that, folks. Now, let's talk about 90K Bitcoin. Is 90K in the cards? Looks like that's what the bears are hunting for. So slowdown in spot ETF flows signaling weak institutional demand. Is that true, though? Are we going to have to debunk this article like we do so often, it seems like? Doesn't matter the publication. I don't want to point out Cointelegraph, but it's hinting at a cooling bullish sentiment. Cointelegraph better than most, actually. CoinDesk, God, they're always off. But 108 is a short-term target for the bears, with some analysts predicting 90K Bitcoin. Now, inflows have cooled into the Bitcoin ETF since the beginning of September. Net inflows fell. They fell 54%. Wait a minute. But it's still in the positive. Okay. So they're trying to make this seem bearish, like, oh my God, the inflows fell 54%. So you're like, all right, so instead of making $2, we only made $1. Okay, so instead of making $2 billion, we made $1 billion. It's still inflows. Let's actually look at the fresh data here. This is HODL 15 Capital. We haven't looked at his stuff in a minute. Cutting through Grayscale inflow. BitB, inflow, ArcB, inflow, HODL, Fidelity, BlackRock, inflow, 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 inflow. So we had a net inflow day yesterday. So yeah, sure, maybe it's slower than the record week, but we still have some ETF inflows here. Now you can see right here the day last week, we had one red day. We had one red day, so maybe it's slowing down. We do have this other measurement that we're looking at, the cumulative volume delta indicator. It tracks the cumulative difference, just basically the difference between the buys and the sells over 90 days. It checks that delta gap. It checks the gap between the buys and the sells over 3 months. It has remained taker sell dominant since mid-August. So this is meaning you can see the sells are dominant. It means retail traders consistently selling more Bitcoin than buying, reinforcing the risk-off behavior. But we do have people, dumping. The paper hands are dumping here. But now we might see this 90K flush. And we're going to go back to the charts here. Not much strength on Bitcoin after a strong day yesterday, said Mike Vandepop. The accompanying chart show that Bitcoin loses 112, 110. It could drop to 103, 100. And then he says this is a good area to start looking for buys. I would assume that we'll get some more downside. And then we're done for the current period, meaning that we'll be in up-only mode. And again, I'm going to share you my thesis on why we are about to kick off a brief up-only mode. Let's go back to Bitcoin's chart here. Let's get off the thing. I'm shilling Aster. I'm shilling the hottest altcoin. This is a 4-hour bull div. See the price is heading lower. The RSI is somewhat reset, but still higher than what it was right here. I would suggest that you look at the last time we saw this happen. Now we covered this, but there's one thing I didn't cover, which was how long did the dump last? And so I think I have them circled here, waiting for this. There we go. We had the vertical lines. That's what it was. All right. So let's measure this. So we hit oversold. You could say we hit oversold. I guess you could say it was right here. It was on this. Son of a gun. All right. 4 hour. There we go. All right. So here we go. I was like, I thought I had it vertically correct there. Okay. We pretty much did. So we're going to move it 1 4-hour candle over. That's about right. This lasted, this downtrend, before I would say, broke the downtrend. I mean, really, you could go further because this is sideways hell. That's 5 days right there. Let's measure this. It would take 2 weeks. It would take 2 weeks before we would resume an uptrend here. And then RSI would go oversold and it would remain so, and it would stay oversold like Bitcoin can do in a bull market. This was 14 days. Let's go here. Where are we at right now? Folks, you son of a guns. Calm down. Be patient. It's been three. We might be in hell all the way until October 6th. But again, I have my prediction. I think it's going to end before this. Now, you did ask about, let's see. Let's check it out. It's hot. See, the thing about coins this new, you can't really do any kind of TA. You can't do any TA. Really, I would say the best thing to look at here would be CoinGlass liquidation heat map. So just type in CoinGlass. You'll see liquidation heat map on the left side. You type in this ticker and then just see where's the magnet pulling it. Because if everybody starts shorting it, guess what? It's going to go higher. That's if everybody shorts. But if everybody's going long, like, all right, this was my point to jump in a trade, well, then it's going to go down. So I would say too fresh for TA. It's too hot. It's too fresh for TA. So use that liquidation heat map. That should point you in the right direction. Speaking of liquidations, look at the liquidation heat map right here, folks. All right. I want to read some of these comments, folks. Get your questions in, get your comments. Talk to me about your altcoin. I did star some of the comments from yesterday here. Let's see. I will try not to forget the bean juice at the end. And what was the first crypto coin do you like so much? So I would say the first one that I end up liking a whole lot. It's a stupid story, and it's a story I've shared before. I bought a bunch of Chainlink at $2, and I sold it at $4, and I thought I was a genius. I was like, I know Chainlink. It would then later run up to like $55, $60, 12, 18 months later. Got out of that trade a little too early there. But I would say Cardano, from the Cardano expos and all the Cardano conventions there. The community is top notch. They're smart. They care a little bit more. They're not a bunch of degens. You go to Solana. What is a Solana community? It could be a lot of different things. It could be some VCs out of Silicon Valley. It could be some Wall Street types, or more likely, it's some trenchers living in their mom's basement. How to stake on DZ Pool? You would have Cardano in a wallet, and then you would find a staking button. And then within that staking button, you could usually just type in pool, DEEZY. We hit 2 blocks. Yes. So yeah, every epoch, meaning every 5 days on Cardano, you get paid. Yeah. So we're going to be dispersing the DZ Pool ADA imminently. It all happens on chain. I have my Bitcoin money up like 400 on them. I mean, okay. Sounds like me. XRP at 3 cents. Embarrassing. First coin I ever bought was XRP. I downloaded Coinbase specifically to buy Bitcoin, and I had unit bias, so I bought XRP instead. So I almost forget about that sometimes. First coin DZ ever bought, XRP. So don't say I hate it, you babies. All right, 75K sounds more likely lately. Is Ethena a good buy? I'm going to talk about Ethena a little bit later. I'll share my thoughts on it. Now, back to liquidations. Bitcoin market painted a masterpiece. Yesterday, huge short liquidation. And then today, a huge long liquidation. And guess what? There's still more liquidity below, but there's also billions above. They will pummel and crush all retail, so nobody dares go long with size before they pump it. All markets, essentially casinos. It's not a charity. Casinos grab liquidity from the degens. This is the way. And you can see right here, goes long. All right, so all these people going short, Bitcoin goes up, they get wrecked. They're like, all right, well, I guess I should go long then. You know, this was the breakout trade. So then they go long right under this level, and then boom, they get liquidated. Like, all right, well, that got flushed, so now I'll go long again. Boom, that got liquidated. They're like, all right, well, now that's finally over, right? And then they're going to go long again. These people might get liquidated, but the whole time, people are piling into the shorts there. Let's go to the fresh data on Binance. I might have to zoom out a little bit so you can see on the screen. They just have weird formatting here. Binance on the 12-hour, it did wash away some of the longs. There's still some longs. Looks like they kind of start right around 110, 110 and some change. So around 111, you're going to start seeing some liquidations. But Binance, the whales start getting liquidated around 112, 500, 400, and then right below 113. And then right below 114. So this is going to be some levels, and I want to look at Hyperliquid just to see, are we still miles away? We're still miles away. So when you see it close on Hyperliquid, that's when it's time to get a little bit scary. That's when it gets scary, folks. Gate is better now on CoinGlass. Gate is better. All right, so we'll look at it real quick. Gate. Smarter. They look like they're smarter there. That's for sure. All right, let's talk about these big expiries here. Again, this only happens 4 times a year. I try not to do every Friday expiry. I try not to even do every monthly expiry, but we do want to cover the quarterly. It only happens once every 3 months here. Mamo, still a good hold. First coin I bought was Gummy. All right. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Ethena, we're going to cover that in a little bit here. TJ's the big XRP hater. You're the small XRP hater. I'm not a hater. I like to FUD people when they don't understand Swift and Chainlink and XRP. When they don't even like know any of that stuff, I'm like, okay, so you just don't know what you're talking about. You're just bullish because you have a bag. But this is what I just want to share. Cut to the chase. $17 billion worth of Bitcoin options is expiring tomorrow. The max pain, meaning the level that option traders would experience the most financial loss of. The better way of saying this, the level at which exchanges would experience the most financial gain. And then that kind of sums it up, the real name of the game here, where you're going to be hunted $110,000. That is going to be the downside target. So keep an eye out on this 110. If it does happen, my prediction is it would be a quick wick flush. It'd be a wick flush. And then I don't think it would be part of a larger move. That's just my prediction. Of course, no one knows for sure. Speaking of predictions, I like Ben Cowan's prediction. We talk about my Chainlink trade. Bitcoin dominance should head back above 60%. Weakness for all BTC pairs expected for the next month or so. I would agree with this. You start looking at the weekly candles. ETH should eventually hit new highs again, but liquidity should flow back to Bitcoin for now. This is the Bitcoin dominance. We did have some bull divs on the daily here. You can see the Bitcoin dominance. I do expect us to have a lot of pain trying to pass this blue line. This is just the parallel channel that's going back about 3 years. Yeah, 22, the tail end of 22 here. So 2.5 years has been stuck in this range. Bitcoin gaining against altcoins, gaining against altcoins, brief loss. Now everybody's screaming alt season's here, alt season's here. Alt season index was looking good. Then Bitcoin said, no, I'm king. I'm king. But honestly, you can see it in the bull divs here. Now going to the weekly, this is where it looks like, yeah, it could definitely be a couple weeks of hell. He's saying, could last for another month or so. But let me point out this from the previous breakdown of Bitcoin dominance. I think people are kind of torn. Are we in, oh, here, let me actually stretch this. Oops. There we go. All right. Are we in, here, let me get this circle. Are we seeing this? Right? Where, you can see it like that. We're like, oh, okay, this has kind of been Cowan's prediction, right? So we're still like boom, boom, and we're about to do another high. We're about to, he doesn't say high, he does say 62%. But there is another world where what we're seeing right here, boom, you can see it right here, you can see it right here, but you also see it right here and right here. This could be this right here. And then get rid of that. Now, this is, definitely a little bit different on the RSI. Had a lower RSI here. But I think there is an argument that this is a fake out bullish bias for Bitcoin. Everybody, Bitcoin has to win. Bitcoin has to win. I do agree with the 62% prediction. I will add to my Chainlink bag at 60%, probably. Maybe I'll wait for 61. Actually, I think I want to wait for 61. So 61%. Probably going to add to my Chainlink trade from Bitcoin. 62%. I plan on doing the same. Past that, I need to reevaluate. Like, oh my God, was there no alt season? I don't know if that's going to happen though. But I think there's an argument. What we're seeing right here is this. Could be. I'm not saying it is, but you can see the RSI hitting oversold. I'm sorry, hitting a low level right there, but then it would go oversold and then it would go lower and lower and lower, albeit slightly. As the RSI moved higher and higher. So no one knows for sure, but I will say I do like Ben Cowan's prediction of a 62% retest there. Now, we do have Raoul Pal saying we are not going to see the 4-year cycle. We're not going to see a 4-year cycle. We're going to see a 5-year cycle. And he's going to do this, just a quick video. Basically, he's going to do an hour stream tomorrow. Or maybe it's today because this is from yesterday. Hour stream. I'm going to watch it when it drops. Raoul Pal, and essentially his thesis is Bitcoin isn't following M2, Bitcoin isn't following 4-year cycles. It's following this thing called the ISM, and ISM with the Bitcoin implied ISM and pricing. Then it's like, okay, so how are you getting these measurements here? It's like, are you changing the algorithm on the red line to make it match the black line? That's why I need to actually listen to his whole hour-long spiel here. But ISM is going to be the Institute for Supply Management. The way they get this ISM number, this business cycle number, and the surveys purchasing managers and manufacturing about new orders, production, employment, supply, deliveries, inventory. So it's like going to a manager of a Toyota factory. And it says, all right, well, what do you have for, what are you building over the next 6 months? What kind of orders do you have for the 6 to 12 months range? Because then they'll build these cars for these 6 months. And then it'll take, 1 to 3 months to hit all these dealerships. And then when it hits the dealerships, it'll take, 0 to 12 months for these cars to leave the lot, empty the inventory, hit drivers' hands. So it's kind of a forward-looking index. And he's saying, Bitcoin's just following this the whole time. So if you look at the ISM also operates in waves. It is suggesting that there's going to be another leg up. So Raoul Pal saying 4-year cycle dead, 5-year cycle is the way. All right, let's see here. It'd be hilarious to see crypto skyrocket in the next 2 months. Cycle in, all these prediction statements, extended cycle, 5-year cycle just die. That's why I'm like a Q1 26. I think he actually said Q2 26. I think it's going to be pretty close to the 4-year cycle. I don't know. It just seems like it is. Please buy more SWE so I don't get wrecked. I'm bullish on SWE. We're going to mention SWE. We got some SWE stuff a little bit later. Boss, I'm tired. I'm tired, Grandpa. Well, that's too damn bad because the market doesn't sleep. Just look at Aster. If you fall asleep at the wheel, you're going to miss the next big 10x. How do you get rich? By chasing the gains, by getting gains, by adding green percentages to your portfolio. And that's what we're trying to do here. Raoul Pal just moves the goalposts. I think we do that. Yeah, you did watch it. Okay, I'm gonna watch a little later. Jay Mizzle looks like it was a debt rollover. All right. He's going to shit on bag holders that fall for that. All right. It's about who the liquidity is too, right? Yeah, who the liquidity is. Do you mean like where the liquidity is? I would agree with that. More upside on Avantis than Aster. Probably, but more downside too. 100% more downside. Those buying the tops and hold for 5 years. Ha 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 ha. Remember you said Bitcoin's all-time high will be sometime this month. Yeah, that was years ago. I switched to Q126 right around the times people started pointing out the M2 money supply. I was a 927, but this is like 2023, and I have adjusted, maybe even 2024. I have adjusted that target. So 927 was just my late mother's birthday. And I was looking at, all right, December 17, November 21, October 25. And I was like, all right, maybe it's going to be front ran by like on the tail end of September. I don't know if that happens. All right, now Google. This is breaking news 7 minutes ago. This happened literally 7 minutes before I went live. Google taking a 5.4% stake in Bitcoin mining company. This is actually why I was a little bit late. I was doing my research here. What? Is Google buying a Bitcoin mining company to mine Bitcoin? Are they going to mine Bitcoin? No. They're not going to mine Bitcoin. You're going to see people screaming that Google is going to mine Bitcoin, but they're wrong and they're idiots. And they're not looking into what this actual deal is. The deal, we'll see. All right, so it's working Bitcoin mining stake firm Cipher Mining. That's who they're buying, right? They're buying Cipher Mining as part of a data center deal with the AI data center company. Okay, so they're basically like a middleman here. They're guaranteeing Fluid Stack is that data center obligations with the contract with Cipher, and the deal is going to see Google's new thing that they bought, right? So they took a deal in this Cipher. So they're going to see Google's new subsidiary essentially deliver megawatts of computing power to Fluid Stack. This is not a Bitcoin story. This is an AI story. It's just a further continuation of what we're seeing, where a lot of these Bitcoin miners are pivoting and they're switching to a AI compute center. And so is Google buying a Bitcoin miner? Hell yeah, 5%. Are they doing it to mine Bitcoin? Hell no, it's for AI. So, just slow down with the Google Bitcoin. It's not a lot there, folks. There's not a lot there. But now it's time to talk about ETH. Is ETH dead? The rug pulls on Aster will be epic. YZI Labs, I need to see what percentage of that is YZI. YZI is not going to rug pull because they didn't rug pull on BNB. So just look at their past actions as a future predictor of future actions there. That's all we can do, right? We can look at the past to determine the future. I mean, he diamond handed BNB from 10 cents to 1,000, and he could have easily, sold that for Bitcoin anytime, folks. All right, so the bottom is in for Bitcoin. And guess what? It's almost in for ETH. It's approaching a very similar setup from June this year with lower low into supply, joining with the RSI getting close to oversold. 3,900 will be the bottom in Psychedelic's opinion and will be in the next day or so. So chill. He hasn't let you down on this yet, and I don't think he's going to here either. I haven't verified this guy's past calls, but I am looking at, kind of what he's pointing at here. This is interesting that maybe the trend is slightly less oversold. If that is the case, yeah, this is definitely following a trend there. And if you look, it's a swing high into a new low, and then it blasts past the swing high and it retests that previous high. Swing high to a new low, boom, it hits that. I mean, you could draw this one all the way down over there, I suppose. And then you can see swing high, go past it, come down and retest that previous high. So we retested the previous high here. We're retesting the previous high right here. You could say there's a mini version right here where we retested this previous high. It just happened very quickly, shot up. You'd have to go to like the 1 hour chart. But you could say that ETH is following this trend. And if this trend continues, yeah, it's essentially the bottom for ETH. But what do we have as a catalyst for ETH? Whales dumping Binance, dumping ETH to liquidate over 100 millions in longs. Exchanges playing the classic game over and over again. They're going to liquidate you over and over again. I shit my pants over and over again. Why? Because you're using too much leverage. Also, the Binance saga continues. ETH dumps, longs get liquidated. They just don't want you to win. And here you can see the massive amounts of ETH, millions of dollars per clip. Binance hot wallet sending it to Wintermute, a known market maker that is known for manipulating prices. That's literally what their business model is. They'll change the price for you. And what is happening here, though? Well, 10 whales have bought almost $1 billion via OTC. This is all in a very, very short time period. We're looking at a 3-hour window, and this was from 10 p.m. last night to basically 1 a.m. this morning. So in the wee hours when nobody's awake, at least on the West here, while you're panic selling, the whales, they're buying your cheap Ethereum. And then that takes me to this chart right here. I don't want to get into the whole article. I just want to show you the picture. ETH on exchanges. I know we keep saying it. Well, the reason is it keeps happening and it keeps happening. I think I can open this image in a new tab. Boom. So you can see right here, you go straight up from June. Basically, we were at a new low, right there. And that's when we started. Exchanges had an all-time low. And then it kept going lower and kept going lower. And it just keeps going lower, folks. So ETH is diminishing on exchanges. I'm not going to say it's running out. They're running out. Oh my God. They don't have any. No, there's like 2 left. No, it's in the millions. Yeah. 14 million. It was 14 million ETH. But when there was, let's just say here, the start of the bear market, there was 30 million. So the supply is dwindling when you look at it that way. Now, people were asking about Ethena earlier. Did ETH hit the 26 EMA yet? I don't know about the 26. Let's go to the ETH daily. I go to spot. Pull up our indicator here. We got the 20, 50, 100, 200 right here. That's the 4-hour. So it definitely went past that 26. The 26 EMA is, the 26 is going to be a little bit below the 20. It's going to be above the 50, obviously. Yeah, this could be the next level. The next level could be this EMA level right there. Also, we got this classic TA move. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Okay. Could say from the breakdown. If it's coming from the breakdown, it's right there at support. I do like seeing that it's kind of really retesting these ranges. There's a lot of support at this level. There's definitely a lot of support. Let's actually look at the liquidation heat map on ETH. We're going to do Binance. Okay, so definitely some liquidations to the downside, but there's magnets. There's magnets pulling it up. There's definitely some magnets here. Now, let's see how far away it is on Hyperliquid. Why is it all Binance there? Oh, I guess I got to type in ETH here. That's weird. Hyperliquid. Yeah, so far away. It's like not even worth mentioning. So I said, look at Gate. That is all fuel to the upside, folks. That is fuel for the fire, if you will. That was a large cup, and I almost poured water all over myself. Almost. When you have that the ice kind of rushes you with some sort of avalanche on your face. I almost had that situation there. Pretend like you've drinking water before. All right, so we know ETH being manipulated. We see it on the order books here. We see it with Wintermute, etc. But now let's talk about Ethena. Now rolling into the next one. People are asking about Ethena. Ethena did just get a big investment, M2 Capital. M2 Capital sounds boring as hell. There's massive money behind M2 Capital. Who's M2 Capital? The investment arm of UAE. UAE base holdings M2. There's a lot of government connections here, a lot of oil sheiks, and they invested 20 million in Ethena. It's a governance token for Ethena, or ENA, the governance token for Ethena, crypto native synthetic dollar protocol built on Ethereum. I did a whole deep dive on Ethereum, altcoin with BlackRock and Binance's blessing. Basically, I covered the news that they're showing here. The YZI Labs boosts investment in Ethena, and YZI Labs credited with, basically being CZ's family office. This is like CZ's investment vehicle. And a lot of people are pointing at Aster pumping from their YZI lab investment. So what else are they invested in? Watch last night's video. A lot of people are going to be missing out on that one. But meanwhile, I think the trades are going to be going good. Now, speaking of the trades, let's look at Bitcoin. How is Bitcoin performing on the short time frame? We look 5, 10, 15, 20, 20. Starting to do a little bit of a downtrend here. It's down to do a little bit of a downtrend. RSI starting to lose it. Let's go to the 1 hour. RSI did turn around here. Remember, we were talking about the 4 hour needs to turn around. It is turning around on the 1 hour, and the 2 hour printed an hour and 15 minutes ago. And I see a little V. I see a little V there on the 2 hour RSI. So we might see that 4 hour RSI also turn around. Might be a little entry for Bitcoin there. All right. Circle is getting ready to be centralized. USDC getting very centralized, even more so. Always talk about, Tether can freeze your Tether. Okay. They could freeze the dollars in your account, in your MetaMask. Circle is taking it a step further. Be like, oh, so you go ahead and freeze. But what if we could go ahead and extract those tokens back? What if we could reverse these transactions? Circle, world's second largest stablecoin issuer, examining reversible transactions to help recover funds from fraud and hacks, which appears to counter one of crypto's founding principles. Transactions are final beyond centralized control. This gets a huge thumbs down, gigantic thumbs down. Cannot stress it enough. I feel like freezing already against crypto's ethos. We might as well just be banks at this point, okay? You might as well just call yourself Bank of America or Scam of America. Circle, all going for a circle. You need to not circle back to the legacy financial systems. You need to circle back towards the crypto system, which stands for freedom, which stands for self-sovereignty, meaning you are your own bank. This is the exact opposite of that. Makes me like I use Circle all that much. I don't really use USDC, but this makes me want to start exploring. All right, maybe I will start looking into USDE, and I'm definitely team USDT after that. How is that legal? Because it's how the federal regulators want it. They want it to be legal. The rules for the banks have never been the rules for you. Overdraft fees, I would say, would be a good example of that. I mean, there's bank executives naming their yachts overdraft because they would make so much money off these overdraft fees. So they want to cloak it under the guise of protecting consumers from terrorism, protecting consumers from fraud, protecting consumers from scams. It's not about that. It is all about centralized control. It's all about controlling you, controlling your dollars. The best way to control you, if they can't use violence, is to do it financially. And when you're talking about not being able to pay your mortgage, not being able to pay your kids, that essentially is violence, just, maybe in a more insidious and evil way. Yeah, you can lend your USDC on Base. Yeah, nothing is decentralized, not even Bitcoin. You got that right. I mean, even if it has an X account, well, whose phone number is it tied to? There's always some degree of centralization here. This is why we should be for decentralization. What is the most decentralized coin in your opinion? I would say Monero, Cardano. You're going to see those kind of leading the way there. I think HBAR maybe. Crypto is all about cash, money, centralized. All right. Were you saying nobody cares about centralization yesterday? Yes. Can you see that? Why that's a problem? I will say retail doesn't care. I try to scream about people not caring to make people care more. I try to galvanize these people to not think like a no coiner. Okay. Don't be a no coin idiot. All right. Think in the terms of how our founding fathers would think if you're an American. Think in the terms of the pioneers, the conquistadors, the expansioners, the people that saw a vast ocean with nothing but fear, scary stories about Kraken and dangerous mermaids. Are they real? You don't know. It's 1492. You know what you saw over there? You saw opportunity. And I see opportunity in the crypto space. And when I see bad actors in there try to turn it into this centralized garbage, I get at the same time, I can say people don't care, but dang it, I cared. Maybe that's just my weird way of saying it. Do you think this is the last pullback before the upside? I do, and we are getting to the point where essentially I'm going to reveal my bull catalyst, the revealing what's going to lead to the next level. Can't find DZ Pool on Arculus. Arculus maybe needs to update how often they check it. We do have a link from Arculus down below. Get your coins off exchanges, though. I will say that. So if I was on Coinbase, where would you move your funds to? I think colonizers. I like to call them the conquerors. Okay, colonize. What's a colonizer from someone who just walked there maybe 1,000 years prior? Is there a big difference at the end of the day? How about all the humans destroying all the megafauna? Megafauna is going to be a large animal. we eradicated species after species. So it's like, where do you draw the line? At the end of the day, you have even American native tribes pushing down the other tribes that were there before them 50 years prior, 200 years prior, and they pushed them down from Canada, right? Eskimos pushed down the Indians into the Canuck land, and then they push them down to America. They push them down to Mexico. They push them down to Central America. And then all the way at the end, you got the guy in like the Amazonian rainforest and the bottom of Peru. No, I'm sorry, bottom of Chile. And he's just like, I don't know. What's that? All right, let's see here. Coinbase, though, I'm fine keeping a lot of funds. Not a lot. I have some number of funds on Coinbase, and I don't think Coinbase is going to rug pull you. I remember when Solana got hate for being too centralized, and no one cared when Solana would shut down. So, people should care about that, but that's just another thing people didn't care about. Let's see here. Colonize, call it what you want. Losers lose. I mean, hey, man, you should have invented the wheel. I said it, Native Americans. You should have invented the wheel, and you should have invented written language. You should have mastered metallurgy. You didn't, and other people did. That's just the way the world works. I went there. All right. Don't cancel me, Native Americans, but you lost. All right, let's talk about James Nguyen. This is my prediction from yesterday. I feel bad for saying that now. But anyways, James Nguyen, remember what I said about Aster's dark pools? They're going to hide the whale trades. Well, look what James Nguyen is like the whale that got hunted. They hunted this guy down left and right. You might as well just put a big Moby Dick sign on him. Just put a big sign on his back, slap him on his back and say, "You, Moby." I was almost going to say the other one. All right, now, given recent events, they're talking about this, CZ from a few months ago. Given recent events, I think it might be a good time to launch a dark pool perp DEX. Always been puzzled that everyone can see your orders in real time. The problem is worse on a perp DEX where there are liquidations. And so if you're looking to purchase $1 billion worth of a coin, you don't want others to notice your order until it's completed. Large traders in TradFi use dark pools. Okay, that's like what BlackRock does, which is often 10 times bigger than the normal order books. And so now we look here, given recent events, referring to me being hunted by the market-making cabal that ferociously hunted my positions. CZ got straight to work with Aster, knew it was coming, now it's here. Thanks to CZ, we can now trade safely from the market makers. Best product wins always, and that product is Aster. I made the prediction yesterday. Aster, these whales are all going to give up Hyperliquid because they're tired of being hunted. What happens? Literally, James Nguyen, he does a big post like, "Oh yeah, I'm done with Hyperliquid." He doesn't name Hyperliquid, but he's essentially saying, "I'm never trading on Hyperliquid again." Aster is leading the perps surge here, 70 billion in trading volume. So we're seeing a lot of trading volume. Looks like trading volume is a key measuring interest, market conviction towards the platform. I don't know if that's the case here. Aster's rise also driven by aggressive incentives for using the platform. If you trade, mint, or hold, you get points eligible for the next airdrop. There is going to be another Aster airdrop. So saying, people are only trading here for the points, for the airdrops. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing with EdgeX. That's what I'm doing with Aster. I'm not banking on Aster. Like I use Aster to buy Aster. We do have an Aster link below. I'm not banking on Aster giving me a big airdrop though, but is interesting seeing that just get very, very popular here. Now, Chainlink got something pretty interesting with Chainlink here. Chainlink speaking with Swift's chief innovation officer. We covered Tom when he had all those posts on LinkedIn. It was about 2 weeks ago, maybe. Tom had posted on LinkedIn, "We are not using XRP," essentially. It's kind of what he said. He was like, Swift has no interest in using, he didn't name it. He's like, Swift has no interest in using another platform where they control the supply or something like that. Basically, pointing his finger at XRP, pointing his finger at the escrow wallet, Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple Foundation. You guys have too much XRP for the banks to want to use it. Now you got him talking with Sergey at the Chainlink forum. So if you're not bullish on Chainlink after this, folks, I don't know what will make you bullish. Nothing at that point, probably. Say, working with Securitize is going to be a big legacy Wall Street RWA platform. They work with a lot of people, but I would say, working with Say, we're starting to see a little bit more validity heading in Say's direction. You're starting to see rumblings of a Say ETF. You're starting to see rumblings of a Say digital asset treasury. You see Securitize working with it. There's going to be Wall Street stamp of approval here. It does have fast finality. I would not be sleeping on Say. Say for a long time was just kind of the shittier SWE, if I'm just going to be honest here. It had a very similar token physiognomy. That's enough in crypto. They're like, oh, it's similar. I'm not even going to get into where you see XLM, XRP, back in the day that was similar enough. I'm talking like, 2019 or whatever. But I would say is getting out of the SWE shadow, and Say is starting to turn into a real player here. It's turned into a bona fide project, if you will. Now I am interested in Say's recent action. Trying to type. Act like you know how to type here. All right, Say what you say. Say what you want to say. This looks like a good buying opportunity, man. I think we're really close to this, 25-cent-ish support. You can see it bounce very cleanly right there in July. We're just looking at the last 3 months. And then it bounced kind of like 26 cents, I would say. Yeah, about like 26. And then it pumped off 27. And now is it going to bounce off 28? Maybe. That chart looks not terrible. Now, here's where, you go to market cap. It is inflating. It's inflating like a lot of these newer coins that are like, under 2-3 years old. But moving forward, I would say is not terrible. Now for the bull catalyst. I've been teasing it all freaking day. What is going to be the next leg up? And let me explain my thesis here. So the U.S. Senate Finance Committee to discuss crypto tax matters next week. The Coinbase executive, 3 other crypto tax policy specialists are meeting with the Senate Finance Committee next Wednesday to discuss digital asset tax matters. Senate Finance Committee, one of the most powerful organizations in our entire government. I would put them up there with the Senate Arm Committee, which is probably number 1, and the Senate Intelligence Committee. But the Senate, this Senate committee, the Finance Committee here, set to hold a meeting or a hearing next week to discuss how your crypto should be taxed, seemingly in line with the White House crypto report. All right, they're going to have Mike Crapo. Crapo is, I'm not going to make fun of his name here. We're going to move forward here. So essentially, this talk is going to front run the next leg up. We saw this. Now, let me break down my thesis here. We saw this exact same thing with the U.S. Clarity Act, with the Genius Act. Everybody's screaming, no, the Genius Act is passing next week. It's passing next week. It's going to pass on the Wednesday. Well, guess what happened? Everything started surging on Monday and Tuesday. It was front ran. The news was kind of front ran about 24 hours, 48 hours. Because remember when the Genius Act passed, we went back and we looked at all the altcoins that stand to benefit greatly. These DeFi projects, projects like Ethena that have stable coins. They all pumped, almost like they knew it was going to pass. It's almost like they knew the Genius Act was going to pass. I think that there are going to be people that know what happens with the Senate Finance Committee before it actually happens. So they're meeting on a Wednesday. Do you think that do you think everybody has no idea on the Tuesday how the direction of this talk is going to go? I think there's going to be people, they have the bullet points, they know they're going to talk about. They're hanging out anyways. They're hanging out of the same Washington, D.C. social bar. They're hanging out of that cigar club. They're hanging out. They're getting lunch at the Waldorf. They're cronies. They're buddies with these people. So it's not like they're all going to show up on a Wednesday and be like, hi, I'm Bill. Oh, hey, Bill, I'm Tom. Oh, nice to meet you. Never seen you before. They're going to be like, hey, old Princeton pal. Remember when we peed on each other in our dorm? Skull and Bones reference. Sorry, but I should not have gone there. Skull and Bones doesn't do anything nefarious. The thing that John Kerry and George Bush that were a part of when we both had presidential candidates from the same small club. But anyways, I'm getting distracted here. They all know each other. They all hang out, and they probably know how things are going to go before Wednesday. And when we last saw something very similar, boom, DeFi kicked off, crypto kicked off. Then I think we all got a little bit too greedy. I think the market cooled down. I was discussing with the coworkers today. I think what we're seeing now is too much leverage. Why is there too much leverage? Things like Hyperliquid, things like Aster, things like EdgeX. I think everybody's farming these points on these perpetual DEXs. And I think everybody's like, oh, you know what? My risk appetite's a little bit higher because maybe I qualify for this $1,000 airdrop, $10,000 airdrop. So now I don't mind going full port with this $1,000 or maybe even $5,000, maybe even $50,000. They're like, I'll get a little bit riskier because I might get some benefit down the line for leaning into the risk, leaning into this exchange, leaning into perpetuals. So I think once this liquidation is washed out, maybe it's going to happen tomorrow during the expiry. We are talking about a quarterly close here. We're ending the month of September and we're ending Q3 here as we go into October, November, December, the final quarter, quarter four. Once we get this Senate finance rules on crypto taxing, imagine the headlines. Bitcoin no longer taxed from a Wall Street Journal, a New York Times, a Washington Post. This is going to be that next leg for Wall Street, for those people that aren't plugged into the crypto space. They're more worried about Palladium and Intel stock and what NVIDIA's forward-looking forecast is. They're just kind of crypto adjacent. And so they're going to kind of be hit unaware with this crypto news, but I'm sharing it with you first here. My prediction, the Senate Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday is a bullish signal that nobody's talking about, folks. But that is the show for today. Don't forget, we got the 1 p.m. We're going to be hanging out with Kelly. We also got Drew coming on a little bit later. And I see you talking about and teams and rooms with infinite bankroll from hedge funds. Yeah, there's 100%. Simply big money using AI and bots to work emotional retail, liquidate them. Yeah, they're trying to manipulate your emotions to get you out of the market 100%, 1,000,000%. That's how the bear market begins. Also, the timing is correct. Yeah, bear market starts in like 30 days if you go by classic 4-year cycles there. Let's see here. We run big, ton of money going to flow to Trump Republican campaign. Same reason Dems try to kill the fossil fuels. I think Dems didn't try to kill fossil fuels so much as try to push green energy. And I think they were pushing green energy because there's a lot of money in green energy via NGOs, via tax breaks, tax incentives, via just, special regulations there. So I don't even know if they were anti-oil, but more so pro-grift. And I'm not trying to say, solar is a grift, but the wind farms killing the whales, that was definitely a grift. And you get some study and you make a lot of money, then your cousin's wife has an NGO that's like behind the study. I think it was more of a ESG grift personally there. Sipping lean, smoking an L at a ducked off private club in the middle of the hood. All right, Jason Pate, you're going to lift up your hood out of that hood, man. All right, now let's all take our sip of, me personally, hot bean juice, whatever your favorite beverage is. Maybe it's whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We're just going to support it. Hit that like button, everybody. Let's take a sip. 3, 2, 1. That's our show for today. I'll see you guys in the future.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.